My daughter thinks I'm poor. She has no idea I'm worth 7 million. My name is Margaret Delaney, and I am 71 years old. To the outside world, I'm a frail old widow who lives in a modest, one-bedroom apartment near the edge of town, clips coupons, and takes the bus to the local market. People see my secondhand cardigans and faded handbags and assume I'm just another pensioner scraping by. Even my own daughter, Erica, has long since made up her mind about me. But what no one knows, what she doesn't know, is that I inherited $7 million when my husband, Richard, passed away, and I have every intention of keeping it that way. You see, money changes people, and I've seen what it's done to my daughter already, without her even knowing I have any. If she ever finds out the truth, I fear she'd never look at me the same again. The story of how I came to hide a fortune from my only child isn't simple. It's layered with years of hurt, judgment, assumptions, and painful silence. And it all began the day my husband died. Richard and I were married for 42 years. He was the calm to my storm, the patience to my impulsiveness. We met when we were both 28. Working in the same office building, he in finance, I as a secretary. He had a quiet confidence about him. While others chased glamour or loud success, Richard invested quietly, strategically, patiently. He never talked much about money. Not to friends, not to family, not even to me. I knew we were comfortable, but I never suspected just how wealthy he'd become. It wasn't until his funeral that the lawyer pulled me aside, handed me a sealed envelope, and whispered, "There's something you need to see." Inside the envelope were 3 things: the details of a trust account, access codes to a safety deposit box, and a handwritten note that simply said, "For you, my love, live freely but wisely." I sat in my room for 2 whole days after the funeral, staring at the wall, the letter clutched in my hands. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't even know if I wanted it. When I finally opened the account details and spoke with the lawyer, I was stunned. $7,142,000, all legally mine. No catches. No taxes due, no debt. Just quiet, steady growth over decades. And I had never known. The lawyer, a kind man named Henry who'd worked with Richard for over 20 years, advised me to keep it quiet. "Your husband didn't want this to become a burden," he said. "He wanted you to choose how and when to use it. You don't owe anyone an explanation." And I believed him. I still do. But my daughter Erica, she wouldn't understand. Erica always chased appearances. Even as a little girl, she wanted what the other children had. More toys, fancier shoes, prettier dresses. We did our best, of course. But she never really outgrew that hunger for status. When she was a teenager, things got worse. She'd come home crying if someone at school had a newer phone or wore designer labels. She'd call me cheap under her breath and accuse me of being old-fashioned or selfish. I blamed myself in part. I'd raised her to believe she could have anything she worked for. But somewhere along the line, she interpreted that as she deserved. Everything, even if it came at someone else's expense. When she turned 25, Erica married a man named Brandon. He was charming, ambitious, and shallow to his core. He treated me like I was invisible. At their wedding, I wore a simple navy blue dress. Erica took one look at me and said, "Couldn't you have tried harder, Mom?" I laughed it off. What else could I do? I gave her a wedding gift, $5,000. In a check inside a card I spent an hour writing. She thanked me with a forced smile, then never brought it up again. She never once asked how I was managing on my own. Not after Richard died. Not after I moved into my smaller place. Not even when I skipped her anniversary dinner, because I couldn't afford the fancy restaurant she picked. But I could. I could have bought the whole restaurant that night if I wanted to. I just didn't want to play the part she had written for me. She wanted me to be the quiet, poor old mother who stayed out of the way, so I did. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me with guilt or pressure. And I wasn't going to let her dig into Richard's legacy just to fund her lifestyle. Instead, I created a second life for myself. Every Thursday afternoon, I visited an art studio on the other side of town. I paid in cash, took private lessons, and learned to paint, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the chance. Every few months, I'd travel to cities I'd only dreamed about when I was younger. Paris, Florence, Kyoto, Istanbul, always alone, always under the radar, and always returning before Erica even noticed I was gone. At home, I volunteered at a local women's shelter, donated anonymously to libraries, schools, and single mothers, and even paid off the mortgage for a struggling friend whose son had leukemia. But to Erica, I was still just mom. Then came the baby shower. Erica was pregnant with her first child, and she made it clear. She wanted luxury. "Mom," she said, "do you think you can cover the catering? It's only $3,000. And I already did the hard part, choosing the menu." I paused. Not because I couldn't afford it, but because of how she asked. No gratitude, no warmth. Just entitlement. I gently told her I couldn't afford it right now. She sighed into the phone. "Of course not." I should have known. She hung up before I could say another word. That night, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror for a long time. My daughter had no idea who I was anymore. Maybe she never did. I didn't sleep much that night. A week later, I got a package in the mail from a nonprofit I regularly donated to. Inside was a letter of thanks for helping them build an entire wing for displaced women and children. They were naming the wing after me. Margaret's Haven. I wept. Not because I wanted the recognition, but because that was what Richard would have wanted his money used for. Quiet, meaningful change. Not balloon arches and champagne fountains. I skipped the baby shower. I sent a gift. Handmade baby clothes from a woman at the shelter. I never got a thank you. Months passed. The baby was born. A boy named Cameron. I offered to help out. To babysit. To be part of their lives. But Erica always had a reason to say no. "He's too young. We've got it covered. You're too old to lift him." Every excuse chipped at my heart. One night, I saw a post on Erica's social media. It was a photo of her living room, packed with friends. A caption read, "When your real family shows up for you." I wasn't tagged. And that's when I knew. I didn't lose my daughter to distance, or age or miscommunication. I lost her to pride, to status, to the illusion of wealth and what it means. But I still love her. And maybe one day I'll tell her the truth. That every year on Cameron's birthday, I set up a new trust fund in his name. That I've already planned his college education. That I've written my will to ensure he never has to know the sting of being overlooked. And maybe, just maybe, one day she'll understand. That being poor isn't about what you have, it's about what you give. And that I've been giving everything I have, in silence. Because love, like wealth, doesn't always need to be shown. Sometimes it just needs to be felt.